Yeah. 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 So many lies that you hear from the net, they don't get her respect. She reporting the truth, not a check. You want an unbiased opinion straight from the chest, not a bit of accomplice or someone here for a check. Tune in, these are thoughts from a lawyer on a mission who goes so hard it's like she works on commission. Trolls in the comments might say she tripping cause they lack the knowledge, they don't know they missing. Got a couple current events that you like, wanna know about law from the eyes. Tired of all these blogs running lies because their agendas are disguised. Tune in to the intellect, cause I'm sure y'all missing all the facts of the case that she steady is gifting. Someone here for the people, man, it's so uplifting. If you ain't subscribed yet, then you just omitting facts.
Hello, everyone. It is Pam Esquire, also known as Your Law Intellect. We are going to have night court. We have not had that in a while. And so I said, I'm not going to wait till tomorrow. Since I'm up, I might as well go now. And those people that are awake, welcome. For those of you that will catch it on the replay, thank you so much for your support as well. If you guys could do me a favor and hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you have not done so already. So it's been a minute. I was in Georgia last week to cover the Ernest Williams case, and I don't know what happened, but my back started hurting, and my back was hurting every day. So today is the first day that it feels a little bit better, but your girl has been in pain. Okay. But I feel a little bit better, you know what I'm saying? So I said, let me go on while I feel, okay. And I missed you guys. You know what I'm saying? We don't go this long without kicking it with each other about the law and what's going on. And then I was just kind of sitting back too, because I honestly didn't want to. I just didn't want to talk about Diddy. I was just like, because it's starting to get more ridiculous as the time goes on. It's like Diddy doesn't need us to add extra sauce to it. I think the feds got this thing handled, but now you're just hearing all type of just everybody got tapes. That's the thing. Let me say this real quick though. About all these people that say they got all these videos, do you not know that when you go to these type of celebrity parties, typically they take your phones. You don't even have anything to record with. And then I feel like part of why Diddy had them half naked was probably to make sure wasn't anything on them. But I'm just speculating right now. But some of this stuff just isn't like, logical sense to me. So that's why I said I'm gonna sit back and let the feds do what the feds get paid for. You know what I'm saying? What our tax dollars um have enabled them to do all these years. But nonetheless, I see you guys coming in. I see you guys coming in. Thank you so much. I am unique. Yeah. Call me darling. Said I'm over Diddy news. Yeah, I want to see, next thing would be if he gets bond. If you're in the membership, as things do get posted on the docket, I posted in there. But he is adding more to his legal team, which I think is a very good idea. Because his attorney was out here talking about he's buying baby oil in bulk and it's from Costco, and Costco is responding like it ain't us, it ain't come from us, we don't even sell baby oil. So I figure he did need a little bit more reinforcement. OJ had a nice dream team. So for these type of charges, I think it's a lot for any one or even two, because I think Mark Garagos's daughter is on Diddy's case as well, was on Diddy's case with that the first lawyer, but now he's added an appellate attorney, and he's added Anthony Rico, who specializes in death penalty cases. And then they just added a woman today. So listen, thank you, Tam. I appreciate it. Yeah, I am. Bible lady said, "Hey Pam, notification made me sit up and grab my wig." Thank you for the super chat. You like, what's she doing on this late? Yeah, this is just the time that I felt decent to be able to come on. So I said, those of you that are here, I appreciate it. Those of you that watch the replay, I appreciate and I understand. Y'all got to go to work and all of that good stuff. And I decided to come on at midnight. Thank you, Anthony, for the Cash App. I appreciate the love. But always the lady said, how much longer before he broke? Well, you got to look at it like this. And this is what I'm saying about these civil lawsuits. I have so many. I've been watching lawyers talking. Y'all know I really don't talk about lawyers like that, but some of these people, I'm like, if you read the indictment is very clear that they believe that a lot of, if not all of, Mr. Combs' assets, any whatever he owns, money, everything has been accumulated illegally from this enterprise. This is what they're pretty much saying generally. So not only are they saying they want to forfeit, if he loses, if he's found guilty, they're going to try to forfeit anything that was created through this enterprise that they're alleging that he was a part of or was the leader of. But they also have a provision in there that says if you transferred that property into somebody else's name. So people mention he doesn't have anything in his name. So we know Diddy was living good. So the feds aren't dumb. So they already have that provision in there that they'll be able to take it from third parties as well if you put it in somebody else's name. Diddy is not he's not going to have the money to pay all these people. Cassie got paid off. Um they did a demand letter earlier in the year according to what was said. Of course, none of us were there. We all just getting information in the news from either the attorneys or people close to the situation. And because Cassie was going to put a book out, and then apparently Diddy was like, I ain't giving you $30 million. And then 6 months later or 7 months later, boom, here come this complaint. But he was aware of it. So it was almost like it was a demand before. So this attorney that is saying there are 100 and something odd people that he's going to file lawsuits on their behalf. And he's saying it may not be this week. He doesn't want to give timelines because he don't want the media to say, oh, well, he said he was going to file. Now he's not going to file. It is commonplace for you to file a demand letter before you put stuff out to give people, especially when it's high profile people, where you draft a complaint and then you write your letter and say, this is what we are requesting in order as full and final settlement. You let them know this is for settlement purposes only. So this amount doesn't mean anything if I actually file this lawsuit, and you attach a copy of the complaint and you give it to them and you give them the option. You gonna pay us or do you want this to go public? Now, the interesting part is you've had attorney that they haven't said these celebrity names, and I think they are the ones that will probably be more apt to say, well, let me go ahead, I don't even want to be a part of this, let me see what they're asking for and what information and evidence that they have. Now, this attorney was alleging somebody was text messaging him different videos and stuff. I just don't understand. Like, typically, again, for these type of parties, they take your phones, they take cameras, they take all of that. So I don't know how any of that would have got let in there. That's why, and Diddy's white party specifically used to be in what, Vibe magazine. It was like the cover. So they had exclusive, like how People has exclusive. So usually they have you sign like NDAs and all that. And then back then, I don't even think they had cell phones like that. Shoot, I had a beeper. Am I aging myself? I'm like, I had a pager. You had to put 800 304 if you want to cut somebody out, so you could turn it upside down and read it. But I know you had the people, with the phones, in the briefcase and stuff back then. But yeah, I don't know. That's what I'm saying. I'm a pager baby. What you know about that? Okay. Y'all feeling me? Everybody had their code at the end so people didn't know it was them, just in case you text from a different number. So you was like, my number is 007 or something like that. So that's my code. That's who I am. So if I call you from another number, you'll be able to contact me back. That's the era that we talking about in the 90s and stuff. So You said 1, 2, 3. Them was good time. That's why I said all these lawsuits, they just knocking our childhood down one by one. You had R. Kelly, then when they came after Bill Cosby, look at all the people that are products of Bad Boys. You know what I'm saying? You got Mary J. Blige. You know some of you guys have snotted on your pillow to a Mary J. Blige. Well, nothing like a heartbroken Mary J. Blige. Them songs were like hitting, man. So you got Mace, used to love Mace. You had who am I met? You had Total, you had 112. I mean, that's like our whole childhood. If we just want to think that everybody just is just sad place, sad place. But yeah. Jodeci, right? Forever, my lady. Man, Aaron Hall out here. We heard he allegedly, he on the lawsuit. I miss you. I'm talking to you, baby. He sound like R. Kelly. They got that little goat thing going on in their voice. Yeah, that's like a lot of our childhood. We sitting back like, what we supposed to do? Like just skip all of the 90s and we got to go back to the 70s and start listening to the Motown greats because today's music is trash. So, I mean, what we going to do? What we going to do? I don't know. Courtney said that's the Beyonce, girl, you said that's the only way I can get that. We used to talk and laugh all night, girl. Okay. Y'all get in here, hit that like button for me. We just, out here doing night court at midnight. That's all. Hey, everybody. I see y'all coming in. I see y'all coming in. Yes, please. Jennifer, what you doing up this late? Yeah, hit that like, share, subscribe to the channel. Okay. So we briefly, I want to say, it's been a while since we talked about Russell Simmons. I think it was around the same time that all of these lawsuits was like hitting, and we were like, it was like everybody was getting, Diddy kept getting them. Then you had Aaron Hall, we had Eric Adams, we had Jamie Foxx, we had Russell Simmons. It was a lot of them that came out around the same time. So with Russell Simmons, one of the only cases that I really was following was with Drew Dixon. So Drew Dixon is currently in litigation. And what actually made me think about Russell Simmons was today, Deb was saying that he was listening to the Ricky Smiley morning show and they were discussing something about, I guess they were trying to serve Russell Simmons to do a deposition and he's not showing up. And my response was, Russell Simmons is probably arguing that they don't have jurisdiction over him. I don't know. Like, I thought it was interesting that somebody flew to Bali in order to serve him the complaint in the first place. But I was just talking off the top of my head. I hadn't really looked at the case. So I said that's probably what they're arguing, is that the Southern District of New York does not have jurisdiction over him because he's no longer domiciled there. He's in Bali. Like, that was my speculation to avoid some of this stuff, was why he moved to Bali, in my opinion. I'm just speculating, okay? I don't know any of these people. But we do know that around the time when he left, that was when you had the Bill Cosby and the like all of this all this stuff started coming out. And people had already been kind of side-eyeing Russell Simmons with the whole Kimora Lee and how young she was. And so when he left, it was like, okay, all right. So I started looking in the lawsuit that's going on with Drew. Let me see if I could. Hold on. So she files a lawsuit that's no, this is a Jane Doe. This was a Jane Doe case because Drew sued. Who did she sue? L.A. Reid. So that was a whole nother lawsuit. I'm mixing these people up. This is a Jane Doe against Russell Simmons and Sean Holly out of California. She is like a really good attorney. She is representing Russell Simmons. So a lawsuit was filed, and remember, we heard that Russell was served in Bali, and I think we talked about that. If I recall correctly, we did talk about that. But nonetheless, Russell Simmons filed a motion to dismiss the lawsuit. The court did, I think the court told them that they had to refile it. They had a certain amount of time to refile it, which would be in a couple of weeks. But we can read that just so we can get the facts of what this Jane Doe was alleging against Russell Simmons. So, because I think in the response they probably put the facts in there. I would guess. Let's see. Okay, so this is the Jane Doe, and okay, this is their response to the actual complaint. So it has plaintiff filed this lawsuit against Simmons in February of 2024, alleging claims predicated upon a sexual assault that she vaguely alleges occurred at some time shortly before she left her employment at Def Jam in 97. Plaintiff's counsel in both plaintiff's initial complaint and her amended complaint spends more space estimating Simmons' net worth than alleging the facts required to support plaintiff's claims. Okay, so this is Simmons' attorney, obviously, that is snapping back at the way the complaint was written, because it talked a lot about Russell Simmons' net worth and all of that are all in the complaint. Their accounting is inaccurate, offensive, and entirely irrelevant to plaintiff's claim against Simmons, which are not actionable as a matter of law. Plaintiff's deficient pleadings require this court to consider a 1997 termination agreement and waiver of claims and a subsequent tolling agreement. And in order to dispose of this action, Simmons has reattached them to this motion for judgment on the pleading. Plaintiffs claim under the New York City Victims of Gender Motivated Violence Protection, we've heard that a lot in New York, are simply not actionable as a matter of law because the alleged conduct at issue occurred before the enactment of the statute, which does not permit retroactive application. And Simmons' counsel informed plaintiff of this deficiency during the teleconference on April 16th. And yet, plaintiff refiled her amended pleading with the same incurable GMV claim upon which no relief may be granted. Plaintiff claims under the ASA must also be dismissed as a matter of law because they are time barred. Although plaintiff's counsel discussed the tolling agreement during the teleconference, plaintiff did not attach or even merely mention the tolling agreement in either her initial or amended pleadings. Regardless, even if assuming for a moment that plaintiff had mentioned the tolling agreement, plaintiff already released Simmons when she signed the 1997 agreement. By plaintiff's own allegations, the assault occurred before the 97 agreement was entered into, and therefore the tolling agreement does not extend the statute of limitation of the ASA claims. Finally, as a threshold matter, this court lacks jurisdiction over this action as Simmons is not domiciled in New York. This is another instance where plaintiff's counsel has failed to carry plaintiff's burden and where they cannot cure the deficiencies of her claim. Thus, Simmons respectfully seeks a judgment on the pleadings to dispose of plaintiff's claims with prejudice as a matter of law. So now let's get into the facts of what this Jane Doe alleged against Mr. Simmons. Plaintiff worked for Simmons during the 90s. And that's according, so they're going to cite where they're getting this from. So basically, Simmons' attorney is reciting facts from the amended complaint. And when it has DKT 19, that's the docket number. So when you look on the docket, it's numbered 1 through 500 until so everything you file gets a number assigned to it. And this is the number. Like if I wanted to look up the amended complaint, I could either click on, because it looks like a hyperlink, click on, or I can go onto the site and actually go to number 19 and just click on it instead of having to look at each line and try to figure out what the amended complaint is. And this is what the courts usually want you to do, because they're not trying to do extra work. So if you're going to cite something, you need to tell them where to find it. But anyways, the amended complaint is docket number 19 at paragraph 3. Declaration of Russell, all these places, like all these different sites that they have, shows you that she worked for Simmons during the 90s. Plaintiff alleges that Simmons assaulted her a short time prior to when she left her employment at Def Jam Records Inc. and Rush Associated Labels Recording. Plaintiff was terminated for cause from her employment at DJR on January 7th of 97. I'm going to skip all these sites. In connection with the plaintiff's termination, Simmons plaintiff, DJR, and other related parties signed the 97 agreement on January 9th, 1997. Plaintiff consented to an unambiguous release of all claims when she signed the agreement. See, that's what they were alleging that Diddy was trying to do for, like, that is what Aubrey O'Day from Danity Kane, that's what she was alleging, is that when Diddy was trying to give them back their publishing or offering them their publishing back, they had to sign a release. And part of that release was that when you sign this agreement, you release them of any claims once you sign this agreement. So apparently Simmons is arguing that when she left and they have that exit, I guess, interview, she signed a release that basically he was released from any claims that she may even have against him. Until plaintiff's counsel reached out to Simmons' counsel in late November 2023, 2 days before the ASA claim revival window expired, and informed Simmons' counsel of plaintiff's allegations and intent to file a lawsuit, Simmons had never once heard that plaintiff was accusing or had ever accused Simmons of assaulting her back in the 90s when they worked together at Def Jam. And there's another declaration attached. Simmons was shocked. He was like, what? Plaintiff and Simmons have remained cordial over the years since she was terminated by Def Jams for cause, and she worked with Simmons again years after her termination from Def Jam. Over the decades, plaintiff regularly reached out to Simmons, making friendly check-ins via text message and email. She inquired about Simmons' family. She visited every home Simmons had ever owned in Los Angeles and New York. She had recently invited Simmons to go to dinner with her after meeting him at yoga class in March of 2023. Nearly 3 decades after she entered into the 97 agreement precluding this action, plaintiff filed this lawsuit in the Southern District of New York on February 13, 2024, alleging 3 claims arising under the ASA and 1 claim arising under the GMV. Following the teleconference, plaintiff filed an amended complaint. The allegations in the amended complaint are substantially the same as those in the initial complaint. Other than that, the amended complaint contains new allegations that the agreement is fake and plaintiff's signature is forged. Even though plaintiff's counsel discussed the tolling agreement during the teleconference, plaintiff did not mention the tolling agreement in her initial complaint, and neither has plaintiff mentioned the tolling agreement in her amended complaint. So this is the argument, taking all plaintiff's allegations in the amended complaint as true, which do not mention any agreement that purports to extend any statute of limitation, and drawing all inferences in plaintiff's favor. Plaintiff's ASA claims are time barred as she filed her initial complaint approximately 3 months after the expiration of the statute's claim revival window. Remember that the ASA statute was the one that everybody was filing it over under. That's what Cassie was able to file hers under, and it expired like on Thanksgiving, because we were coming on every day the week of Thanksgiving when all of these lawsuits were being filed. The tolling agreement, which we expect will be documented by plaintiff in opposition for the first time in a futile attempt to save her claims, does not change this outcome, as the tolling agreement cannot toll any claims the plaintiff had already released in 97. Okay. Trying to see if it's anything else important you guys need to know. I just Okay. Plaintiff's amended complaint must be dismissed because the court lacks subject matter jurisdiction over this action. The plaintiff bears the burden of proving subject matter jurisdiction by a preponderance of the evidence. And there's all the law. United States citizens who are domiciled abroad are neither citizens of any state of the United States nor citizens or subjects of a foreign state. And Section 1332 sub A does not provide the courts have jurisdiction over a suit to which such person are parties, and that's enforced v. Facebook. It is well established that a suit by or against United States citizens domiciled abroad may not be premised on diversity. Diversity jurisdiction is proper only when there is complete diversity among all parties to a suit. When the citizenship of a party is challenged, the burden is on the plaintiff to provide competent proof in support of the alleged basis for jurisdiction and to prove by preponderance of the evidence and grounds for jurisdiction exist. Okay, so let's talk about diversity. Okay. As plaintiff is well aware, Simmons is not physically present in New York. She served him in Bali. Further, Simmons does not live in New York, owns no property in New York, and has no intention of returning to New York. So what I had heard was that around this time when he moved to Bali, I think he has a property in California, but it's not considered he's not a resident there. He's like paying like non-domicile taxes or non-resident taxes or whatever you call it. But he sold like his houses and companies and all that stuff in New York back then, from my understanding. And then he did do an affidavit. Let's look and see this affidavit right quick. Hold on a second. That ain't it. Let me see. I, Russell Wendell Simmons, being duly sworn, depose and say as follows. I am the defendant in the above captioned matter. This declaration is based on my personal knowledge and is true and accurate to the best of my knowledge and recollection. I would sit in Indian style, but because my back is jacked up, you guys probably didn't hear the story in the beginning if you just came in. And hit that like button if you just came in. Or I would, to just let you guys get the feel of probably how he was sitting when he was writing this. He has probably had his legs crossed and stuff, but I can't do that right now because my back is messed up. Number 3, I am not physically present in New York, and I do not have an intention to live in New York in the future. I own no property in the United States. I have been living in Bali since 2018, which is where I intend to remain. For at least 9 years before I moved to Bali, I lived in California. As a California resident, I paid California resident taxes in the years immediately prior to moving to Bali. Currently, I pay California non-resident state taxes. I declare under the penalty of perjury that the above is true and accurate, and here is my signature. No, he didn't denounce his citizenship. Someone asked that. No, he's just domicile is where you live, like actually physically live on a day-to-day basis. So when you go to federal court, there are a lot of jurisdictional hurdles that you have to overcome to know that to be able to show that that court is a proper venue. And one of those is you have to show domicile. So even if the events happened in New York, which I'm sure that's what they're alleging, you don't even get to that part because you got to have jurisdiction over the person first before the court is even the proper court or they can do anything. Y'all think he coming back? Y'all think Russell coming back to this United States over here in New York? Think he come back to New York? He said he been there since 2018. That's why he got all these other people visiting him because he not coming to visit you guys. So don't invite him to your weddings. Do not put him on camera. None. Don't do any of that because he does not plan on coming back. Okay. Now he's popped in here and there, and that one of these documents goes into that because they're going back and forth because obviously the plaintiff is saying he is domiciled here. That's what the plaintiff's argument is. And so they came up with what they feel is proof that he actually is domiciled here. Y'all say y'all don't think he coming back? You said he out of here? Brown Mama 3186 said Russell did leave the U.S. back then, and we question why the sudden move. That is also how he found out Kimora and her husband was taking money from the business he had with her allegedly. Yeah, that's still in litigation too, because Russell sued Kimora in California trying to get the money from that business from Kimora's scamming husband that I think is in prison right now. So yeah. Well, her ex, I don't know if she's still married to the guy, but I know that Russell actually sued Kimora. Yeah, sued Kimora and her husband in California. And that case is still going on right now. Blaze Brown said he allegedly said deuces. That wasn't alleged. You guys seen all them pictures of him up there sitting Indian style, sitting with his legs crossed, with his stress beads. Then they doing yoga and he's centering himself and he's trying to be all peaceful and stuff. You guys saw it. Yep, Usher came there. Taraji came. Mm-hmm. Yep. So anyway, let's go on. So we read that declaration of Simmons. And then they tell you what a domicile is for all of those that want to know what domicile is. A domicile is the place where a person has the true fixed home and principal establishment, and to which, whenever he is absent, he has the intention of returning. That's what domicile is. Simmons has been living in Bali since 2018, which is where he intends to remain. As of the time of the initial complaint was filed and at all times since, Simmons owns no property in the United States. Y'all know that I heard that he sold all his stuff. And I was like, so you guys not seeing what Russell out here doing? Nothing about that made you say, why is he selling all his stuff? In the years immediately prior to moving to Bali, Simmons paid California state resident taxes. Currently, Simmons pays non-resident state taxes in California. Plaintiff bears the burden of demonstrating that the grounds for diversity exist and that diversity is complete. She has not and cannot carry that burden. Plaintiff's amended complaint must be dismissed in its entirety and with prejudice, as she will not be able to cure these fundamental jurisdictional deficiencies. And so that is the main one, is that you don't have jurisdiction. And then they go on to talk about these various statutes, of which a lot of these other women have filed these older lawsuits, meaning they happened in the 90s, and people are like, how you able to file these lawsuits in the 90s? From the 90s here, there's a statute of limitation. So they're arguing, they being Simmons, is saying plaintiff has failed to state a claim upon which relief may be granted. And that's basically, when you have that, you really don't attach any documents or evidence. You can do declarations, but you don't really attach evidence, because you're saying, based on the pleading by itself, you have not pled anything in this pleading on this document that says that you have stated any claim at all where you can get any type of relief from it. So you can't go and try to attach text messages and go attach all of that. That usually is later on, when you do what's called discovery, where we exchange information on each side, and then you do a motion for summary judgment, which with that you add your evidence as to why you think the case should be dismissed. But initially you'll have it where, if just based on the pleading alone, because sometimes people will file stuff and it's just frivolous, and you're like, claim one, I don't like her, or something like that. Especially pro se people make up stuff. So you're like, you could just dismiss this on the face of this pleading. So that's what they're asking on here. And the reasoning that they're saying that, aside from not having jurisdiction because he's not domiciled here in this US of A, and he's definitely not in New York, is what he's saying. Plaintiff claims are barred by the unambiguous general release in the 97 agreement. So they're saying there was a settlement agreement, which again sounds like the same type of agreement Diddy was trying to get Aubrey O'Day and all of them to sign. When Aubrey O'Day was like, nope, you can keep your publishing, I'm not signing anything. And she read the actual release, which had an NDA and all of that on it, but it said, you can't say anything negative about them, can't do this, can't do that. So this was releasing all claims, probably was in that type of release as well. But what they're saying is, in 97, there was a general release. And in that release, let's go to it. On January 9th of 97, plaintiff entered into the 97 agreement with Simmons and DJR, among other, and DJR is Def Jam Records, among other related parties, in connection with the termination from DJR. The agreement states, in consideration of Simmons, Cohen's, and DJR's consent to the release in paragraph 3, you voluntarily, knowingly, and willingly release and forever discharge Simmons, Cohen, DJR, and Rush, their parents, subsidiaries, and affiliates, together with their respective officers, directors, partners, shareholders, employees, and agents, and each of their predecessors, successors, and assigns, from any and all charges, complaints, claims, promises, agreements, controversies, causes of actions, and demands of any nature whatsoever, known or unknown, which against them you or your executors, administrators, successors, or assigns ever had, now have, or hereafter can, shall, or may have, by reason of any matter, cause, or thing whatsoever arising prior to the date you sign this agreement. This release includes, but is not limited to, any rights or claims relating in any way to your employment relationship with DJR, or the termination thereof, or under any common law or statute. Title 7 of the Civil Rights Act, the New York Human Rights Act, the New York City Human Rights Law, or any other federal, state, or local law. So they're alleging you gave up your rights to sue them for any claims. She clearly didn't have a lawyer, because that would be a no. Like, I'm leaving your premises, and I've been terminated. Why am I signing why am I signing something like this? Unless did she get a big payout? Maybe she got a payout when she left or something. Because this sounds like something you put in a settlement agreement after you've sued somebody and you settle the case. But just for you leaving, this is what you had to sign. So I'm assuming maybe she got paid a couple dollars. In Section 3, Simmons and other related parties also release all claims against plaintiff. Plaintiff agreed in Section 4 that I understand and agree that I am under no obligation to consent to the release set forth in paragraph 2, and I have entered into this agreement knowingly, freely, and voluntarily. Plaintiff initialed each page of the agreement and signed the agreement. The 97 agreement is fully executed by all parties. My. Because plaintiff knowingly, freely, and voluntarily entered into the 97 agreement, the clear and unambiguous language of plaintiff's release of all of her claims should be enforced. Plaintiff's own allegations lack any basis to void the 97 agreement to the extent that plaintiff attempts to create confusion regarding the authenticity of the agreement. Her amended complaint still does not present a genuine factual dispute that will prevent judgment on the pleadings. Plaintiff vaguely alleges that sexual assault occurred at some point before she left Def Jam's employ January 7th of 97. Thus, there is no dispute that the 97 agreement in which plaintiff released Simmons from all claims was entered into after the assault allegedly occurred. The only potential genuine dispute is as to whether plaintiff signed the agreement or if her signature was forged. As stated above, that dispute is also not genuine, quote, as Simmons has demonstrated through the sworn declaration of numerous unrelated business persons and attorneys that the 97 agreement has been properly kept safe in a storage since his execution in 1990s. So there's a declaration from, let me see, is this it? Let's pull up here. Let's see what he had to say. There's a declaration from another person, this Cohen person, who, let's see. I, Liar Cohen, being duly sworn, depose and say as follows. This declaration is based on my personal knowledge and is true and accurate to the best of my knowledge and recollection. From the mid 1980s until 2004, I worked with Russell Simmons at Def Jam and its related entities, including Rush Production, later called Rush Artist Management, Rush Associated Labels, Island Def Jam Music Group, among others. From 1988 to 1998, I was the president of Def Jam. From 98 to 2003, I was the president of Island Def Jam Music Group. On May 13th of 2024, Mr. Simmons, through counsel, sent me a copy of an agreement that plaintiff, among others, signed in connection with her termination back in 97. I recognize my signature on the agreement in both places which it appears. I signed the agreement in two places, on the line above my name and on the line below Def Jam Records Inc. and Rush Associated Labels. I declare under the penalty of perjury that the above is true and correct. So he's saying that is his signature and it's an authentic document. Let's move on. Said B, plaintiff's claims are not timely filed under the ASA and should be dismissed. So they're saying that even though the ASA statute, remember there was a deadline, it was like a 1-year look back, and that she did not file it within that. So she is time barred. So in November of 2022, close to 2 years after the widely publicized bill was introduced in the New York State Legislature, under the ASA, adults who were sexually abused were extended a claim revival window within which to sue their alleged abusers, even for time bar claims that expired on November 24th of 2023. Remember, I told you it was around Thanksgiving. So she didn't file it till February 2024. So they're saying this claim is time barred. The next reason that they are asking for dismissal is plaintiff fails to state a claim under the GMV because the alleged conduct occurred before the enactment of the statute and the statute does not apply retroactively. So the gender motivated violence against when violence statute that a lot of people are filing it under, this was enacted in 2000. She is alleging that her actual assault occurred in 97ish, like sometime in the 90s. This statute that allowed you to sue didn't even exist, is what their argument is. And there's no retroactivity within the statute. So it doesn't go back. It's prospective instead of retroactive. So it looks forward from the point in 2004 you can apply it, but you can't go backwards. That's basically what their argument is, with a bunch of authority. And that's that. That's the end of their request there. But their main thing is he live in Bali, so leave him alone type thing. But then her attorneys is still kind of fighting because they're like, listen here. We don't believe that he actually lives in Bali or that he's domiciled there. Let's see. So then Jane Doe's attorney said, on behalf of plaintiff Jane Doe, we write to supplement the joint status letter filed on number 57 to respond to defendant's letter. Contrary to defendant's one-sided representation and cherry-picked references, defendant's limited 2-hour Zoom deposition and incomplete document production is not, quote, irrefutable proof that defendant is a, quote, stateless U.S. citizen domiciled in Bali. Quite the opposite. The limited discovery of defendant taken so far demonstrates that defendant's pattern of making inconsistent statements as to his citizenship as he sees fit, especially when examined in the context of his many public statements and overall course of conduct. As the court reminded the parties in its September 10, 2024 order, to the extent the motion for judgment on the pleadings cannot be decided, the motion will be denied. Throughout the September 26, 2024 Zoom deposition, defendant gave conflicting testimony about his domicile. So, despite there was some information, I guess, that they were trying to get him to do a deposition, according to this, Russell Simmons did a deposition, and we do a lot of our depositions on Zoom. So he didn't even have to come here to do that. He was able to do it. All you need is some good internet, and you can do the deposition. So they're saying this is the information that Simmons gave during the deposition. But the actual deposition transcript is under seal. So you couldn't just get the transcript. But he did give certain points that came out during the death. Defendants did. So this is the connections they're saying to New York. They're saying defendant still pays the lease for a Manhattan apartment for his children. Defendant claims he hasn't been to New York recently, but as recently as August 20th of 24, he admitted that he would be in New York the following week and sometimes works out of New York. And that's in the Root article. So they're looking at articles where he talked. Defendant represents to the court that plaintiff that he sold his last U.S. property in 2021, but testified that he still maintains a New York office space for a company he owns in New York. Defendant admits that in July 2018, he authorized a statement that he has traveled to many spiritual destinations around the world, but continues to retain active family presence and residence in the U.S. That's from the Hollywood Reporter. So most of their proof just sounds like him talking to the blogs. Defendant admits that he may still have a U.S. bank account. Defendant claims that the U.S. is not his home, but as recently as May 24th of 2024, he publicly complained that the people saying that I somehow can't come home to the U.S. when I'm there all the time wears on you. I'm always in L.A. I'm always in New York and Miami. That's from the All Hip Hop article. Defendant claims that he is retired in Indonesia, but then admitted that he is trying to build a business empire and has American partners for his current projects. If the latter is true, this means that defendant would be ineligible for a retirement visa in Indonesia, which requires a declaration to not engage in business activities or employment in Indonesia. And then they have a declaration from a Peter Coleman who explains that retirement visa holders are not permitted to work or engage in business activities in Indonesia. To date, according to defendant, he is the 75% stakeholder in the GDAS resort and is also the face of Gush Cloud, an entertainment business with locations in Singapore, Los Angeles, and most relevantly, New York. Gush Cloud International article. Defendant cannot have it both ways, claiming to be retired for purposes of obtaining a quick visa while simultaneously operating a luxury resort. Defendant only claims American citizenship while he purports to have taken an unspecified number of steps towards Indonesia citizenship. He has not learned the language, does not vote there, and does not know if he pays taxes on any of his income. Perhaps most telling, defendant has made representations in the Eastern District of New York matter in the forfeiture order of Tim Lessner. We were just talking about Kamor's hubby, that he will be available in New York at any time for his deposition in that matter. Defendant wants to avail himself of the benefit of this jurisdiction while evading its jurisdiction in this matter only. That ain't that strong, buddy. That's not that strong. If you're trying to get some money back from somebody and you gotta fly to freaking London, you gonna go hop a plane and you're like, just tell me when. He said he's retired, so he has nothing but time. He can just jump on a plane when he needs to. But I get it. It's the totality of the circumstances is what he's trying to do to prove that he is not domiciled in Bali. Moreover, the document produced by defendants do not paint a full accurate depiction of his domiciliary status. For example, defendant claims to have produced documentation of the sale of his most recently held U.S. property. But as already mentioned during his deposition, defendant recognized a New York address as the office space for a company that he still owns. Similarly, in this September 27, 2024 letter, defendant represents to the court that he provided evidence of his Indonesian bank account and health insurance policy, but during his deposition, he testified that he may still have a U.S. bank account run by his accountants and that he does not know if he maintains insurance in the U.S. None of this information was provided in defendant's document production to plaintiff. Likewise, defendant purports to have produced evidence showing that he is not registered to vote in New York. But when asked about this during the deposition, defendant testified that he does not know if he is currently registered to vote in the U.S. and that he is not registered to vote in Bali. By cherry picking documents with the Balinese connection and speaking in maybes and half truths, defendant hopes to avoid this court's jurisdiction. His attempt to forum shop should be rejected. In addition, defendant statements concerning the purported 97 agreement should be given zero credence. One example of defendant's misrepresentations during his deposition is that he testified that Heidi Smith worked at Rush Communications as his assistant, was not involved in video projects, and left shortly after the Def Jam recording company started in '85. But in March 2019, for Women's History Month, Def Jam honored Ms. Smith as the backbone of Def Jam since 1983, recognized her influential role in shaping the company as director of video promotions for several years, and acknowledged her as one of the most important women in Def Jam history. Def Jam Heidi Smith posts, besides demonstrating that defendant is not a credible witness, his discrepancies about Ms. Smith are relevant because her name appears on the purported 97 agreement, and she was plaintiff's predecessor at Def Jam. Defendant's other statements about the purported 97 agreement undermine his position and strengthens plaintiff's. For example, defendant testified that he was not aware that plaintiff was allegedly terminated when he signed the agreement, that he was surprised to learn that the agreement even existed, and that he wrote his declaration to the court after seeing the purported 97 agreement. As explained more fully in plaintiff's opposition to defendant's motion for judgment on the pleadings, the meaning and coverage of a general release depends on the controversy being settled and upon the purpose for which the release was actually given. A release may not be read to cover matters which the parties did not desire or intend to dispose of. Then it has the case law for that proposition. If defendant did not even remember the agreement's existence or plaintiff's alleged termination from his company, the agreement surely was not signed with the desire or intent to release plaintiff's sexual assault claims. As with his declaration submitted in support of his motion for judgment on the pleading, defendant, in his own words, undercuts his release defense. So, what do you guys think? What do you guys think? What do you guys think about these arguments? Thank you so much. Thank you, Nikki, for the super chat. I appreciate it. What do you guys think about these here arguments, huh? You said 504 said everybody windmill. Listen, that doggone Russell, this is just my opinion, Russell. Because I heard we're gonna get to who you done paid off or who you were supposed to pay off and you didn't. This seems so orchestrated. Like when he left this and everybody was like, why he just leave and go to Bali? We know, like, when he was being recorded on like Growing Up Hip Hop, I think they had little scenes with him on there because Angela Simmons and JoJo was on that program. So they would go to Uncle Russ's house. He was always like in his, like, I'm in my peace meditation. I'm just constantly meditating all day. That's how he was. And then suddenly he was like out of here. We were like, what happened to Russell? And then it seemed to me that's when you had what was the year that, like, we had the issue, we had Bill Cosby. When his thing come down? We know Bill Cosby arrest. When was that? So he was arrested December 30th of 2015, according to Professor Google. And then R. Kelly. When was he arrested? Just saying. Shoot, he been arrested a few times. I got put recent. Kelly recent. They going back to 2002. They're like, man. No, he was convicted in 2022. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Anyway, it just then you had Weinstein. When was Weinstein? Let's know. We're not letting none of these. Everybody's gonna get talked about. Weinstein was arrested. I wonder if they're gonna reindict him soon. See, Weinstein, 2018. May of 2018 is when Weinstein was arrested over there in New York. Okay. Keeping up with these days. We investigating as we go. You know what I'm saying? See, we got Cosby, and Cosby was the early one in 2015. Okay, we got Weinstein at 18. Let's see, Epstein. Jeffrey Epstein. Jeffrey Epstein. Oh, they put the first one for him too. Because remember, he got arrested in like 06 or something and had that sweetheart deal. So he unalived himself in 2019. So it had to be around that time. Mm-hmm. Because it was 2019 when they allege. Okay. November of 2018, the Miami Herald revisited the handling of Epstein's case in a series of stories focusing partly on the role of Acosta, who by this point is President Donald Trump's labor secretary. July 2019, Epstein is arrested on federal ex-trafficking charges after the prosecutors in New York concluded they weren't bound by the earlier plea deal. So his was 19. So you had Weinstein at 18, Epstein at 19. Yeah, he said, I'm getting up out of Dodge. But they were investigating Epstein in 2018 as well. Whew. I'm just saying, we just trying to figure this out. We're just looking at all of the evidence in front of us and just trying to follow the timeline. That's all. Oh, I got you, Slither. I'm saying allegedly. I'm this is what's documented, all right. Denise said Russell a bit different. You got to get up pretty early in the morning with this dude. Russell said. Deuces. Chalk it up, chalk it up. Then, yeah, I said R. Kelly. It was okay. R. Kelly was 19 too. Okay, so we got R. Kelly. We already know they've been looking at him forever though. So the earliest one was Cosby. Then he got like a hung jury. Then he got retried again with Cosby. I can't remember when he got retried. Not shortly after he got the hung jury. Then you had Weinstein in 2018 when he was arrested. We know that he got his conviction got overturned, and they'll probably re-indict him, I would assume, unless he's like too sick and they're like, forget it. And Epstein, they started investigating him in 2018, but he was arrested in 2019. Then we had R. Kelly in 2019. It's like, I see the writing on the wall. Thank you, June's Poetry, for gifting 5 memberships. I appreciate that. And welcome to all the intellects that have joined the family. Jimmy Trice, you said that Ninja Russ a real Martinez artist. Thank you so much for the super chat. Fuzzy said those people were way bigger than Russell, so he read the writing on the wall. That's just what it sounded like to me. It sounded like he said, you know what? People had already been questioning certain people, such as a Russell Simmons, because remember, Kimora was underage when he met her. Now, I ain't saying he messed with her when he was underage. I don't know. I wasn't there. But I know she was modeling and all of that stuff when she was younger. And then apparently, next thing you know, they were together. So, and if you hear like models like Tyra Banks, like they talk about how it was when they were young trying to get into the industry and these old dudes was trying to kick it with them and all of that stuff. So a lot of this stuff may have been quote acceptable back then, but they see that now they've made statues for people to reap what they have sown. So they like, you might be next. So I'm just following how this domino effect has been going on. So let's see. You said martial artist, that's what you meant. Okay. Ray all day said, I think Usher delivered some data to Russell from Puffy so they can coordinate, allegedly speaking, of course. Well, I don't see how, because you see where Puffy at, right? So according to Diddy's, and see, do you think that this would be evidence that Diddy wouldn't flee because he had the ability? He has a private jet. He had the ability to go to a whole nother country and stay there, but he never left. And he knew that. I think this is what his attorney is trying to get across, but I don't even think fleeing at this point is an issue. They're worried about the intimidating. If he hadn't contacted these people and they have evidence, I guess, that he tried to contact these people, then perhaps he wouldn't have had such a hard time to get a bond, because he did stay here. He stayed here, and that's what his attorney was basically arguing, that he had the financial means and he had the transportation and he could have left. And he knew that they were, according to his attorney, before the subpoenas even came down to search his house, apparently they must have known that he was under investigation, because his attorney tried to contact the assistant U.S. attorneys to try to have a conversation with them. So that was before the actual search warrants happened. That's why it's surprising to me that they were able to get as much stuff out of a house. That's not making sense to me. Like if you knew that they were coming, you was like, I'm just gonna not like I don't know. None of stuff just doesn't make sense to me. Wild card said, if you blowing up cars, I'm gonna need you to remain. Well, that's an allegation. Even though we had Kid Cudi say it was the truth, but that is an allegation. In the but it was more so because you had one of the members of Diddy Dirty Money came I guess said that, and she was the one that was saying that that wasn't her experience. She didn't have a bad experience like what Don was alleging. But that person said that Diddy contacted her over 50 something times. Either she told them that or maybe they saw it in the phone records, but there was some type of proof, be it word of mouth or through the phone records, that he allegedly tried to contact her that many times after Don's lawsuit came out. Foxy made some statements. She once was deaf, but now she heard y'all were looking for her. There she go. Don't do the cash down. I heard y'all was looking for me. Here I go. Allegedly took up for Jay and Spitty Rest. Oh wow. I seen her statement. I wasn't really, was she taking up for him? She didn't really say much of nothing from what I saw unless I missed it. Thank you, 504, for the super chat though. So when Don said he kidnapped her, so yeah, Bond tonight. Well, Don is not a part of, that's her allegation in a civil lawsuit. See, I think you get dangerous. Everybody can make an allegation. You'll be surprised. When we first started this channel, I was showing you guys some of the crazy lawsuits that have been filed against celebrities. You've had people that's filed it against Jay-Z, Diddy, Tupac. He was already dead. Like I was just like, don't, how people, some people have some mental health challenges. Some people just little off, little weird too. And they sometimes they'll file frivolous lawsuits. So I say all that to say that you can't just take the allegation. That's why they're called allegations. He's not liable for those allegations until somebody proves it. And that's the same for the indictment. So if the AUSA was trying to just use what was in the indictment, there is an argument, hey, listen, my client ain't got to prove nothing. My client could literally just sit there and not say nothing through this whole trial. It is the government's job to prove that my client is guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. As my client sits here, it's a presumption that he is innocent. They have to overcome that presumption of the innocence. I don't have to prove that I'm innocent. They have to prove that I'm guilty. And I say that all the time. That's what bothers me about a lot of attorneys coming out like trying to defend and come out with evidence and all that. You save that to poke holes when you go to trial, because you have to show reasonable doubt. But like, to get out here, your job is not to prove that he's innocent. Your job is to prove, their job is to prove that he's guilty and to prove their case. So they don't really use necessarily the indictment, but a lot of the stuff that he's done since then has been the problem. So like, since maybe the lawsuit came out, like when they talked about Don and making it seem like, I guess when they talk to people, there's supposed to be information that while they were investigating, because we all knew the last year there was an investigation, he knew it. There are allegations that you're trying to contact people that got subpoenaed by the grand jury, things like that. So that's what they're alleging as their rationale and their reasoning to say that he may intimidate witnesses, and there's no way to stop him from intimidating witnesses. But he tried to take away the fleeing aspect of it by him moving to New York. But as I said before, he clearly did it, in my opinion, because he knew he was going to have to argue bonds. And he wanted to use that as a reason to show, hey, listen, I'm not trying to run. I want to sit here and fight. I'm gonna testify. I'm gonna defend myself. So he moved to New York and was staying in a hotel when he got arrested, and he was looking for a place to stay. And in my opinion, it was basically done because they wanted to argue it in court to say, hey, he gave up his passport, he did this, he did that, he did this, he did that, and therefore he's shown that he's not going to flee. Because what else would you have if you didn't do anything like that, you know? So I think the judge basically put their hat on the fact that these people are alleging that he's been contacting them, or he tried to talk to them when they said they got subpoenas and all of that. All of that came up in the arguments for the bond. So yeah. You said, I'm curious if Diddy would have ran to Bali, what would the feds and government done? It's a good question. Because he definitely did know. Mm-mm. Thank you, Anita, for the cash app. I appreciate it. So even though, okay, so this is the case he's trying to get dismissed, Jane Doe. He's trying to get this case dismissed, saying, listen, I'm not domiciled here anymore. I am in Bali. Leave me alone. You don't have jurisdiction. That's that. But there are some other women who filed, and they had different results, because it looks like Russell actually settled with them. Russell Simmons owes $3 million to 3 women, including a sexual assault accuser, after failing to pay the settlement. 3 confessions of judgment were filed Wednesday in New York County Supreme Court on behalf of journalists Salale Abrams, Sherry Abernathy, and Wendy Carolina Franco. The documents were part of a confidential settlement agreement the women entered into with the music mogul in November of 2023. So while all of these, I want y'all to pay attention to this timing. While all of these sexual assault, remember, we were reading them every day. That week of Thanksgiving after Cassie, we were just reading them like every day. We were just watching the docket to see what was going to happen next and who was suing who next. We got Jamie Foxx. We ended up with a few Diddies. L.A. Reid. Harv Pierre. Who was that? It was a couple of other people, but Eric Adams. It was a few other people that ended up coming out. But while they was getting lawsuits, apparently your boy Russ was settling his, okay? The documents were part of a confidential settlement agreement the women entered into with the music mogul in November 2023. Simmons agreed to pay each woman substantial sums, quote, for claimants' alleged personal physical injuries and sickness, end quote, by October 1st. But according to the document, he has failed to pay. He provided the confessions of judgment to the plaintiffs last year as part of the settlement. In the event of a default, they give the plaintiffs an expedited means to obtain judgment in New York State Court and to begin the collections process. Simmons pledged to pay $1,265,000 each to Abrams and Abernathy, and $515,000 to Franco. Under the settlement, Simmons did not admit any wrongdoing. Legal representatives for both women and Simmons did not respond to Variety requests for comment. The documents do not explicitly state why the original settlements were made, but Abrams, an author and domestic violence activist, has previously made allegations that Simmons RA'd her in 1994. In 2020, she participated in a documentary called On the Record, which focused on Black women's experiences in hip hop. Over nearly a decade, more than 20 women have accused Simmons of sexual assault, as recently as this past February, when a Jane Doe, who once worked for Def Jam, that's what we just went over, said that he RA'd her in the late 90s. 2 days after the suit, another former Def Jam executive named Drew Dixon sued him for defamation after she claimed he sexually assaulted her, and he subsequently branded her a liar. In a podcast interview last year, Simmons acknowledged being in, quote, compromising situations, end quote, but said he had taken and passed 9 lie detector tests dealing with the allegations of violent conduct. So, for the last 10 years. So now we going through all of this Diddy stuff right now. But according to this, over the last 10 years, Russell Simmons has been accused at least 20 times of some type of inappropriate allegation. You said that's when he said, I'm out. I'm just saying over the last decade. So let's just say 10 years from now, if they started in 2014, he got up out of Dodge. That's just my opinion. Russell, you are free to tell me if I'm wrong. We like to hear all sides of the story. He is innocent. He has not admitted liability, even in these settlement agreements. He did not admit that he did anything wrong. And he's claiming, I guess, that he's taken lie detector tests and he has not done anything violent to these women, but he has been in, quote, compromising situations. Yes, and he's still free. June's Poetry said hush money still means hush. Looks like a lot of it is being spent. The feds stay playing in our face and protecting these millionaires and billionaires. All I'm saying is 20 accusations. And I guess Drew Dixon, she's the one that sued L.A. Reid. And she apparently has sued him as well for defamation. And it must be because he called her a liar. So in the L.A. Reid complaint, I did read that. It was very interesting because she mentioned Russell Simmons a lot. And I was wondering, I'm like, why you ain't just sue Russell? Because you talking about him almost more than you talking about L.A. Reid. But I mean, she said some bad things about L.A. Reid, but she mentioned Russell a lot. So apparently, I'm going to assume maybe somebody asked Russell about this lawsuit and he must have called her a liar. So she was like, oh, I'm suing you for defamation because I ain't lying. 504 said, is that why his daughter was letting that elderly porcelain creep slide his restaurant rush car down her flatbread on that beach? Jeez. Girl, you need to go to bed. It's 1 o'clock. 504, go to bed. No, she didn't. Thank you for the super chat. That man was like old. You said Kimora been in the news lately. Mm-hmm. And remember, she did the little cryptic message, like it was on she put it on her stories on Instagram, and it had, she just added him like for some random, when all this stuff happened, when Diddy got arrested and all of that, she decided to just put in her stories at Uncle Russ, that's his name on Instagram. And I'm like, what she at him like that for? That's interesting. I still have it because I was like, huh? Ooh. So she put like at Uncle Russ on there. That was September 20th. So that was like, I think Diddy got arrested on like, was it like the 6th? I know it was the same week as this, the 16th or the 18th or something. So yeah, that's what she put on there. Kimora needs to stop playing and spill all the tea. That part, and she was best friends with Kim Porter. Exactly. That's what she said, Jill Ruff. You can't take 504 nowhere. Can't take her nowhere. So that is what's going on with Rest. So I had to take a break. Like I said, I was gonna talk about What was that other lawsuit? It was another lawsuit, but I was like, child, what is his name? The country singer dude. I had his lawsuit too, but and it was real. It was graphic. I was like, oh, Garth Brooks. His lawsuit was graphic too. I was like, what? And it's not getting coverage like that. That was kind of the only reason why I was gonna talk about it. I'm like, I ain't gonna make it seem like I'm just talking about my people. But his stuff was really, really graphic. It really, really was. Garth Brooks, yeah. Let's see. Let me see. I'm just gonna read what she's alleged. This is the Garth Brooks complaint. It's a Jane Doe. Garth Brooks, in his infinite wisdom, I guess, or he's showing his finite wisdom, he actually petitioned the court and was asking if he can go under a John Doe or John Roe so that nobody would know who he was because somebody is lying on him and he wanted to stop it from coming out because this person was lying on him. But when I was reading part of this complaint, it looked like to me she had some type of text messages and stuff for certain things. So it kind of sounded like they messed with each other. At least they messed with each other at minimum. And she was like friends with his wife or something. So let's read the preliminary statement right now, since you guys are all up at 1 o'clock in the morning. In 1999, plaintiff was hired to do the makeup and hairstyling for the Grammy Award winning artist Trisha Yearwood. So that's Garth's wife. Miss Rowe continued to work for Miss Yearwood over the years, as well as for many other celebrities. And in 2017, she started to do makeup and hairstyling for Garth Brooks, Miss Yearwood's husband. By 2019, after Brooks learned that Miss Rowe was experiencing financial difficulty, he hired Miss Rowe more often. She was grateful for the additional income and thanked him repeatedly. It did not take long for Brooks to take advantage of her financial hardship. Brooks sees what he saw as an opportunity to subject a female employee to a side of Brooks that he conceals from the public. The side of Brooks believes he is entitled to actual gratification when he wants it, and using female employees to get it is fair game. One day in 2019, when Miss Rowe was at Brooks' house to style his hair and do his makeup, she looked up in horror as Brooks walked out of the shower naked with an erection and pointing his penis at Miss Rowe came directly towards her. He grabbed her hands and forced them into his private areas. Brooks appallingly told Miss Rowe that he had fantasized about this moment and wanted her to perform oral on him so that he could come all over her face. It's like, what? I was like, is this like porn? What is this? Somebody said you. I was like, what? Yeah, I wasn't prepared when I was reading this. I was like, trigger warning or something. I was like, what is this? Like a novel? What is happening here? So let me go to bed. Specifically while she had her glasses on. So he wanted to do that when she had her glasses on. Shocked and confused, Miss Rowe pulled back and said she was not going to do what he wanted, knowing that she needed the work. However, Brooks correctly predicted that Miss Rowe did not leave. In May of 2019, Brooks asked her to travel to LA with him for a Grammy tribute to Sam Moore. Usually there were others on Brooks' private jet, but this time Miss Rowe and Brooks were the only two passengers. Once in LA at the hotel, Miss Rowe could not believe that Brooks had booked a hotel suite with one bedroom and she did not have a separate room. After they arrived, suddenly Brooks appeared in the doorway to the bedroom completely naked. He stood there and flexed his muscles. Miss Rowe immediately had a sick feeling in her stomach, knowing she was trapped in the room alone with Brooks with no one to help him, far away from Nashville. Tragically, her worst fears came true when seconds later he was towering over her, his 6 foot and almost 300-pound frame ready to pounce on Miss Rowe, who is less than 5 feet and 100 pounds. As she began to panic, he grabbed her hands and pulled her into the next room and into the bed where she could not escape his physical domination. Brooks' RAPE of Miss Rowe was painful and traumatic. Having no regard for her well being and intent to his own actual gratification at the expense of Miss Rowe's physical, mental, and emotional trauma. At some point during the nightmare, Brooks even held her small body upside down by her feet and inserted himself in her. She was helpless to move from his grip and terrified at what was happening to her. While he had her upside down, dangling by her ankles, all the blood rushed to her head, causing her to be dizzy and sick. While Brooks forcibly inserted in her, he said perverted things to Miss Rowe about his sexual prowess. Brooks also repeatedly slammed his private into her vajayjay, causing Miss Rowe's back to keep hitting his body over and over with such force she felt as if he was breaking her in two. Disgustingly, Brooks insisted that Miss Rowe wear her glasses while he carried out his assault fantasy. What do these glasses got to do with it? With cold disregard for Miss Rowe, when Brooks was finished, it was business as usual. Miss Rowe worked quickly to style his hair and do his makeup for the event so he was on time. So after all that stuff happened, she finished and did his makeup and she did his hair so that he could be on time. I said, AK, that's what I said when I read it. Like, these are serious allegations. We don't take these lightly. But when I was reading it, I'm like, these complaints are getting more and more like they're getting a creative writer to write them instead of just, usually you just kind of, they're writing these complaints for the media is what's happening, because usually you can, a lot of people, let it be a car accident or something, you're not going to say the gruesome break in their arm and then all of the you can see the white bone marrow, like you don't do all, you're just like there was an accident, they hit them from behind, they called negligence, back injuries, you know what I'm saying. Of course some complaints are more meatier than other complaints, but for the most part you just trying to get in your lawsuit and put your claims out there. But now they're crafting these complaints for the media. That's what they're crafting them for. So it's like, so she's like, business, he does all of this stuff, he's dangling you by your ankles, then it's like, and then it's business as usual. She completes his makeup and does his hair. It's like, what? And I don't, what is this thing? What is this thing with these glasses? I mean, apparently he has this fetish with glasses. Brooks subjected Miss Rowe to other appalling sexual conduct, all of which took place while Miss Rowe was working for him. That includes, but is not limited to, the following. Brooks openly talked about sexual subjects in front of Miss Rowe, including, for example, cunnilingus. I don't know what that even means. So. Brooks regularly exchanged his clothing in front of Miss Rowe and often purposefully exposed his genitals and buttocks to Miss Rowe, knowing that she would respond with a look of horror and disgust. Brooks repeated the sexual fantasy he said when he came out of the shower within and forced her hands on his private to Miss Rowe and forced her to listen to other sexual fantasies he had about her performing sexual acts on him. Brooks sent Miss Rowe actually explicit text messages and pressured her to engage in texting with him. After the actual assault in LA, Brooks increased the frequency of saying his actual fantasies about her aloud, along with his physical gropings of her breasts while she was doing his hair and makeup. Other actually explicit remarks by Brooks included him telling Miss Rowe that he had effed multiple women in every corner of a hotel room, white, black, brown, or whatever. And he also said that he had done so, quote, on every surface in a hotel room. Brooks' increased frequency of his sexually charged conversations included his repeated remarks about having a threesome with his wife, Miss Yearwood, in which he suggested that Miss Rowe would be the third person, which Miss Rowe believes Brooks' wife overheard at least one occasion. On too many occasions to list, Brooks would lasciviously stare at Miss Rose's breast and pressure Miss Rose to open her shirt to allow him to physically touch her for purpose of his arousal, after which Brooks would then pleasure himself. And regarding this, Brooks would said he would take care of himself. Also told Miss Rowe he could not let her see because it's gallons. This is just this is oh, thank you, Stephen. My brother had to tell me what things meant. Thank you so much. In late October 2019, Brooks brought Miss Rowe to Los Angeles for 5 days, during which he physically groped her body, including her breasts. Miss Rowe was terrified to be in a hotel again, worried that he would force himself on her. Her fears were justified, as one morning when Miss Rowe went to Brooks' room to do his hair and makeup, he was on the bed, face down, wearing loose shorts and holding his crotch, and made it clear that he wanted to do what he had done before in LA with Miss Rowe on May 11th. Miss Rowe managed to escape the situation because he was running late and people were waiting to pick him up. At times, Brooks implied the groping of her breasts would continue despite Miss Rowe insisting this was unwanted. For example, one time when he said while groping her, next time we mess around, and Miss Rowe clearly said no, he became visibly angry at Miss Rowe and left. The frequency was such that it was inevitable that other employees of Brooks likely saw or heard instances of the unwanted physical groping of her breast while she was styling his hair and doing this makeup. So it sounds like they're not sure if anybody heard it, but they're just assuming it's inevitable that the other employees likely saw. Got to pay attention to the language. In or about May 2020, Brooks, while speaking to his manager and with his wife also present directly in front of Miss Rowe, talked about inventing a shampoo bottle that would double as a deal. Oh, jeez. When Miss Rowe became uncomfortable and would not join in the conversation, Brooks became upset and slammed his fist down on the kitchen counter in frustration so hard that items on the counter moved, and he leaned in and spoke in a threatening manner to Miss Rowe. Following this incident, Miss Rowe sent a text to Brooks. So this is supposed to be the text she sent. Quote, I have thought a lot about the conversation of last Monday. I can't work in an environment where explicit actual comments are made about shampoo bottles doubling as dildos. I mean you no harm, and if you truly value my work, I am happy to show up tomorrow and or whenever you may need my services. So if you're going to send a text message, it says any email, text messages, or content of telephone conversations placed with quotations herein are direct quotes from the documents or audio recordings. So if they have the quotation marks, they're saying they have the text or the audio recordings. Well, it seems like it should be some about these violent, because you're gonna talk about this the least of the problems. Based on what she said, this shampoo bottle is nothing. You talking about getting carried upside down by your ankles and all of that stuff, and you got a text about a shampoo bottle? This is crazy. During a phone conversation in 2020, after she told Brooks that she was upset, he told his wife that Miss Rowe had seen his private parts. Brooks tried to minimize what happened and said, quote, oh, sweetheart, for one, I think I know Trisha pretty well and she wasn't uncomfortable. And I said you saw my stuff. That was it. We were talking about something and it just came up. Look, I'm worried you are overthinking this. End quote. After the actual assault in LA, Brooks told Miss Rowe about a mysterious text message he received in which a person claimed that Brooks had, quote, ruined his life. In a phone conversation about this text, Brooks said he had, quote, no idea who had texted him the message and suggested that he thought it was Miss Rowe's husband who had sent the text and tried to get her to reveal her husband's phone number. Brooks told Miss Rowe, quote, I never want to hurt anybody. So that one, the mysterious text, it bothered me. It bothered me. I didn't know the number. Still referring to the supposed text message, Brooks also said, quote, and that killed me. It broke my heart. Like, God, I never want to hurt anybody. So I was scared to death, end quote. Brooks then started to talk about the fact that Miss Rowe had not worked for Brooks for several months, so he had one of his employees call her to see what was happening. Quote, and then, when they called you for work and you couldn't do it for 2 months, I thought, oh crap. That's what I thought. Oh crap. So I was trying to seek you out to come talk or whatever I needed to do, but just I don't want to hurt anybody, man, and I just felt bad. End quote. Of course, Brooks knew that the actual assault in RA that he had subjected Miss Rowe in Los Angeles was bad. And so they're trying to say when he was talking about whatever in this text was bad, they're trying to infer he knew that what he did to her allegedly in LA by RAing her in that it was bad. So that's what he's basically referring to, is where that's the inference they're trying to bring from this text. And further, she had told him about the severe back and neck pain she was experiencing. Concerned about the repercussions if she denied him the ability to actually force himself on her again, Miss Rose said on a call to Brooks in 2020, quote, I want to make sure that even though I've told you no, that you're cool with no. I mean, no, as in no fooling around like we had done. You are cool with that, right? That ain't no fooling around. If you sat up there and you took it, that ain't fooling around. What are you even saying? So we talked about the bottle. We talked about the shampoo bottle and said, I didn't feel comfortable with that. But you call it fooling around when you saying he traumatically did this to you and your back and your neck and all of this stuff is still hurting from it. Thank you so much, Laversa, for the Cash App. I appreciate this. I appreciate the love. This is very interesting. Okay. She was fearful that despite what he said, that Brooks was angry and upset with her. Miss Rose said, quote, when I saw you with another music artist, you were pretty upset with me, end quote. Incredibly, Brooks replied as follows. It sounds like to me that they're trying to create context out of some of these texts that don't necessarily have fit into the context of these texts. But that might just be me. I'm just reading what they're putting right now. Again, these are all allegations. So allegedly, Brooks replied and said, and this is in quotes, so they're saying they got proof of it. No, I would never be upset with you. Look at it this way, okay? Look at it. The best way I can explain it is this. Me and you broke into a jewelry store, and the second we broke the door, we looked at each other and said, this isn't right. But we already had broken the door. And so I think me and you get out and run and just hope that nobody ever finds out and just love one another and be friends. Is that fair? So that part sounded like to me that they kind of crossed the line and messed with each other or something. And then you're trying to go back into the friend zone or the employee employer zone or whatever. That's what that text sounds to me. Brooks told her in 2020, quote, I work with the best and I don't want to do something stupid that breaks the team up. So I will do whatever I need to do or do whatever I don't need to do, but I just want to keep working with you. But if you feel weird working with me, and they underlined it, like that was, it's fine. We don't have to work together, end quote. In response, Miss Rose said, quote, I've never find myself in a situation that is, I just don't know what I'm going to be able to look up from. And I am a little frightened of you. I really am, end quote. Brooks says, sweet baby, sweet baby. Because he probably sound country. I'm so sorry. I can't imagine. That makes me frightened of you. In this phone conversation, Miss Rowe explains that it would be, quote, difficult to work with Brooks again, to which Brooks said, quote, I am asking you to work together forever, end quote. And, quote, you have a place here as long as you want it. I'm lucky to have you. I don't want this to go anywhere. And I don't want something that happened in the moment to screw the whole 20 years I've known you. It sounds like to me they kind of messed with each other. That's what it sounds like to me. Denise said, "Girl, you was upside down earlier." Yeah, that's what she said. Slithering Snake said they've been screwing. That's what these texts sound more like to me, that they messed with. They were on a trip or something, and she was introduced to him by his these women. She was in. She remember she was the stylist for his wife, or the makeup artist for his wife, and did the wife's hair. So now it sounds like they messed around with each other. Is what it sounds like to me. Just saying. It's just what it's giving to me. That's all. In addition to phone calls, there were multiple text exchanges between Brooks and Miss Rowe. But while Miss Rowe was at a studio with Brooks to style his hair in 2020, Brooks took her phone and deleted most of the text messages that he had sent to her containing explicit sexual content. So he deleted all of the text messages that had to do with actual content, but he left all this other stuff that make it look like at minimum y'all was messing with each other. He was like, "Oh, that's cool. We'll leave that in the phone." Eventually, Miss Rowe was unable to continue working for Brooks, and she sought legal counsel about what happened. In addition, in or about May 2021, Miss Rowe moved to Mississippi. When Miss Rowe's counsel contacted Brooks and disclosed the fact that Miss Rowe was prepared to file a complaint in California to hold him accountable for his sexual assaults, and even shared a copy of the drafted California complaint with Brooks. See what I told you? They usually will draft it, let you know I'm about to file it, especially when it's a star or a celebrity that got a couple of dollars, and then give them the opportunity to just give them what they're going to try to get if they sue you, and then also avoid them, because she's down as Jane Doe, but courts can come to the conclusion, or they can conclude that they're not going to allow you to continue as Jane Doe, and you have to put your name out there, and it's easy to find out who you are. So typically what they'll try to do is see if, they'll give you a demand letter and see if you will just meet that demand, and then they don't even have to put themselves out there with these allegations, and they can just get the money that they're trying to get at the end of the day anyway. So anyways, he used the fact that Miss Rowe had dared to speak about the harm he forced on her as an opportunity to inflict even more harm and pain on Miss Rowe. Specifically, while pretending to be in discussions with Miss Rowe to resolve her legal claims against him, on September 13, 2024, Brooks filed a preemptive abusive complaint against Miss Rowe under the Deck Judgment Act in the United States District Court for the Southern District of Mississippi. Incredibly, in the abusive Mississippi action, Brooks labeled himself as the victim and claimed that Miss Rowe was a lying extortionist who intended on destroying his professional reputation. Brooks alleged that she threatened to file her complaint in California only because Brooks refused to give her a raise and pay for health insurance. The abusive Mississippi action by Brooks is a blatant attempt to further control and bully his sexual assault victim by utilizing his multimillionaire resources to game the legal system. As part of the lawsuit he filed against Miss Rowe in desperation, Brooks simultaneously filed a motion to proceed under the pseudonym John Doe. The basis for this, as described by Brooks, was because he was a quote, well earned reputation as a decent and caring person, end quote. And therefore, if the actual assault allegations are disclosed, he says it will create, quote, unavoidable damage to his family, end quote. Brooks is desperate to prevent his millions of fans from learning about the horrific things he has said and done to a junior female employee who did nothing to deserve such treatment. But our legal system is not in place to allow wealthy wrongdoers the ability to run workarounds on sexual assault victims who attempt to hold perpetrators accountable. Yet, this is precisely what Brooks is trying to do in the abusive Mississippi action. As set forth below, Ms. Rowe commences this action pursuant to California's Sexual Abuse and Cover Up Accountability Act. because her claims are based on conduct that occurred on or about January 1st of '09 and are commenced after January 1st, 2019. Ms. Rowe seeks all appropriate relief to redress Brooks' egregious and unlawful actions in violation of common law torts for assault and battery and in violation of California state statute of actual battery. That's one heck of a intro, ain't it? That intro was deep. I'm not gonna read all this though. A lot of this stuff is okay. Here go a text message. Let's see. Although Brooks thought he deleted everything on Miss Rowe's phone, he did not, and some texts remain, including those in which he encouraged Miss Rowe to speak in an actualized manner to him, such as this message referring to his huge stick. Warm fact, and that huge stick you carry, Roosevelt? Huh? What does that mean, girl? I feel so slow. What does that text mean? What's happening in that text right now? I'll take that nickname. That sound like she said that, like she said that about him or something. And what? I love you. Who's saying that? Y'all love it. What? And that huge stick you carry. Oh, Teddy Roosevelt said that. Roosevelt. I'll take that nickname. Thank you. I love you. 504. Right. Imagine typing up all this stuff as your profession. I'm just a little confused. I'm just trying to, I want to make sure that I relay, that I relay what they're trying to relay. So they said Brooks uses more than one cell phone and sometimes would use different names and email addresses to communicate with Miss Rowe. He would tell Miss Rowe ahead of time that it would be him sending her communications under a different name. For example, in 2019, he texted her to use a certain email address with the woman's name. It will come back to you as it had the woman's first name and last name, but that is me, smiley face. Although Brooks thought he deleted everything on Miss Rowe's phone, he did not, and some texts remain, including those in which he encouraged Miss Rowe to speak in an actualized manner to him, such as this message referring to his so he encouraged her to speak in a sexualized manner to him, such as this message referring to his huge stick. So this, I guess, is her, like I said. Warm fact. Now, what y'all redact that for? I want to know what that says. What you say up there? I want to know what that redaction is. You done added this. Warm fact. And that huge stick you carry, Roosevelt. I'll take that nickname. Thank you. I love you. Based on the information set forth above, which is a sampling of some but not all of the acts Brooks subjected her to, it's obvious why he resorted to such a drastic measure as filing the abusive Mississippi action. Brooks is desperate to prevent his millions of fans from learning about the horrific things he has said and done to a junior female employee who did nothing to deserve such treatment. So she's suing him for assault. That's the first cause of action. Battery, which is the second cause of action under civil actual assault. Third cause of action is actual battery under California Civil Code Section 1708.5. Fourth cause of action is the Bain Act, California Civil Code Section 52.1. The fifth cause of action is the Ralph Act. Let me see what okay, so I don't think we've ever went over the Bain Act. So let's just say what the Bain Act is. At all relevant times herein, Brooks interfered or attempted to interfere by threat, intimidation, or coercion and by physical force with Miss Rose exercise or enjoyment of her right to be free from sexual assault and ex discrimination as secured by the laws of California. As a result, Miss Rowe has suffered and will continue to suffer mental and physical and pain suffering. The Ralph Act, at all times relevant herein, and on May 11, 2019, Brooks committed a violent act against Miss Rowe motivated by her ex by penetrating her JJ with his private part without her consent, and that he would not and could not have committed the same violence against a man, and that violent act was a substantial factor in the resulting physical and mental harm suffered by Miss Rowe. Defendant Brooks committed a grape against plaintiff as defined in California Penal Code 261. Defendant Brooks also intentionally subjected her to unwanted oral against her will. Brooks further subjected Miss Rowe to unwanted force, sexual groping, touching, squeezing, forced exposure to him for his gratification, including on the 5-day trip to LA beginning on October 28, 2019. Sixth cause of action is gender violence. And what she's asking for is monetary and compensatory damages for punitive damages and exemplary damages according to proof and pursuant to the Civil Code, for attorney fees and or penalties, for costs of suit incurred, and for any and all relief as the court may deem proper. So that's what this lady's asking for. Okay, I don't know what to think about this one. What y'all think about this? What y'all think about this case with your boy Garth? Anybody? 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 Miss V said, "Girl, bye." Sounds like she got tired of playing. Yeah, it sounded like to me he told her that they were gonna be together, and then he never stood by his word. Cause that "I love you" kind of threw me off. And then it sounds like to me when they're trying to interpret a lot of this stuff, it's a reach. Like you really have to like you got to explain it too much for somebody to understand how that's applicable. Like you have to overly explain it. It's not just something you just see when you look at the text. Oh, ATR only Echo knows said, well, his first wife would say that Trisha got him the same way. Is this reaping and sowing? Is that what you're saying? Huh? I don't know much about Garth Brooks. I know he's still out here getting it in over there in the country world, because you go on Apple Music, that's the first thing pop up. The lovely Sherry said it's Cap. Okay. He said, I just walked in. I thought Russell was done years ago when he forfeited assets and left the country. You gotta go to the beginning, sis. We talked about Russell extensively. And then, I don't know how I got on Garth. If it's true, it's definitely unprofessional. Sounds like sexual harassment, depending on circumstance. The lawyer did make a good job connecting the dots. I don't think that's what they're not saying anything in the workplace. It sounds like it's all like battery type and gender motivated and physical assault. Superstar said she fell for the okie doke. Charmaine, you said it's your first live. Welcome. Thank you. Thank you so much. Vay Carter said exactly. He cheated on his first wife with Trisha, so he is always a cheater. Let me look up Garth Brooks. See, I don't know enough about him, clearly. I'm telling you, I read that first page and I was like, what am I reading right now? It was pretty graphic. Let me see. First wife. Let's see. First wife. Maybe I should go to his Wikipedia. Wiki. Garth Brooks was born February 7th of 9. His birthday is way too close to mine. He is an American country singer and songwriter. His integration of pop and rock elements into the country genre has earned him his immense popularity, particularly in the United States. With success on the country music single and album charts, multi platinum recording, and record breaking live performances, while also crossing over into the mainstream pop arena. He has three children. He's also known as Chris Gaines. Let me see. Spouse is Sandy Mall from 1986 to 2001. Then he got with Trisha in 2005. They probably not gonna put their business on her like that. Let me see. No, he got this Wikipedia on lock. I don't got anything negative. Let me see. It got legacy and it don't even have anything about. Usually it'll say personal life, have about your mama and your daddy and stuff. It doesn't have. It got children, three. He was born Troyell Garth Brooks. Okay. First wife. What's your first? Why did he leave his first wife? Is that what? Mm. Garth Brooks says wife Trisha Yearwood is a partner through good and bad times. Through good times and bad times, I'll be on your side forevermore. How much money did Garth give his first wife? Woof! Whoa! When the divorce was finalized on December 17th of 2001, Sandy received a whopping $125 million as a settlement. And they had joint custody of their girls, who are now grown women now. Shoosh. I think she got over it. She got over it. She got over it. 125 million. Garth Brooks has been happily married to Trisha Yearwood for almost 20 years, but before their wedding in '05, Garth was previously married to his college sweetheart, Sandy. Here's all we know about Sandy and their relationship today. Sandy is living her best life with that settlement. Garth met Sandy in May 24th of 86. They met at Oklahoma State University, where he starred on the track and field team in the javelin throw and studied for his degree. Sandy was 3 years younger, and they married when she was 21 and Garth was 24. Sandy was a songwriter, co-writing the track I've Got a Good Thing Going, which was included in Garth's self-titled debut album in '89. She is also the co-founder of Wild Heart Ranch, an Oklahoma-based rehab facility for all species of wildlife needing orphan support, injury treatment, or disease recovery. Sandy remains on their board of directors, where she is known as Sandy Ma Brooks Lynch. She got a lot of last names. Wildheart bills itself as, quotes, a stable and capable place where all wild animals can receive professional medical and supportive care until they can be released back into the wild. While the veterinary team at the Tulsa Zoo lends their time in hospital for the bald eagles that regularly arrive at Wildheart. Child, she is playing with animals all day. The pair announced that they were getting divorced in October 2000, but the filing revealed that they had split in March of 1999 after 13 years of marriage. The divorce was finalized in December of '01. Why did Garth Brooks get divorced? Garth's fame got too big that it damaged their relationship, Sandy once claimed. Quote, people constantly wanting your attention and yanking and pulling on him, she explained in a documentary, Garth Brooks, The Road I'm On. He'd be gone 8 to 10 weeks at a time. He'd come home and there would be number one parties or shows or CMAs or ACMs, American Music Awards. So it was consistently going, but we both grew apart really, really quickly. I don't think either of us had stopped to think about how this would change our lives, she later added. How much did Garth Brooks' divorce cost? When the divorce was finalized on December 17, 2001, Sandy received a whopping $125 million as a settlement, making it one of the most expensive settlements in country music history. Is Garth Brooks friends with his ex-wife? The pair remain amicable as they continue to parent their three grown children. Yeah, I think kids do get worse when they grown. Following Sandy's claims of why their marriage ended, Garth told Fox News that he had, quote, respect and love for her. I heard things from her that she told me our whole life, but I didn't really hear them until now. And so my respect and love for her is through the roof for what she went through and how she's handled it as well, he said. Basically, she ain't tell what really happened. So she got her money. She like, I ain't got to talk bad about him. I got 125 million reasons why not to tell y'all and not to care why we got a divorce. I'm doing okay. I'm doing just fine. That's it. Yeah, because that was a PR to say we just grew apart. I mean, he traveled everywhere. That's what artists do, right? He was traveling the world, and that was it. All right, y'all. It's almost 2 o'clock in the morning. We're going to have to conclude night court. You guys have a great night. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me. Hit that like button if you haven't done so already. Thank you guys again for all of the support with the super chats and the Cash App. And I'm sure we'll be back to do it all over again. Now I got to change this thumbnail since I done talked about this guy. All right, you guys have a great night. I'll talk to you later.